All right, everyone, welcome to the podcast. Today we're here with a very special guest, Mr. Johnny Case. How you doing there, Hollywood?
I'm good, man. It's glad to be on your show, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you for joining us. First, we're going to talk about, of course, the 8-man Grand Prix that you're in RIZIN, but you started in Iowa professionally. Did you go to school there?
I did. Yep. I grew up. Grew up my whole life. Started wrestling when I was in elementary school, and then started fighting right out of high school. So,
did you play any other sports in school?
I kind of played football, but I wasn't really into it. No, the whole team sport thing kind of. I never really, had a knack for team sports. It just winning and losing kind of always felt the same. But wrestling, raced motocross too for some years, and really like just kind of thrill seeking and having it all lie on your shoulders, man.
Hell yeah. And so when was the first time that you had heard or seen MMA?
So it was my senior year of high school, or maybe my junior year of high school. I remember my uncle, he's police chief in Iowa, and he had a MMA fight back in some little bar in Iowa. I remember going at, like, not knowing really what it was, hadn't really seen UFC yet, and just being almost terrified, like, who the hell would want to lock themselves in a cage and fucking finish? But it kind of like had a little bit of like an excitement to it, kind of like that thrill-seeking mentality, that thrill-seeking vibe to the whole sport as well. So I was kind of intrigued. At the same time, I was terrified.
So this was the first time you saw a fight? Was your uncle fighting?
Yeah, it was the first time. And then like right after that, and then I started like watching The Ultimate Fighter. The original Ultimate Fighter came out around that time, and and then just MMA took over my world. I just remember being completely infected.
Crazy. And then when did you like go back and start watching the old Prides, things like this?
Yeah, I did actually. So what's funny? So I remember being in like 5th or 6th grade, and I remember I was at like the state wrestling tournament, the AAU state wrestling tournament. And I remember seeing a famous fight, Don Fry versus
Akiyama.
Yes, exactly. And I remember thinking I was like, what is this sport? I didn't really know what it was. I'm like, they're fighting, but they don't have boxing gloves, and like they can go to the ground. And I didn't know what it was. I just knew it was, it was awesome to watch. So I kind of remember that. And in hindsight, I didn't know what it was at the time, but in hindsight, I was like, oh yeah, I did. I watched Pride before I even knew what fighting was,
Well, and what a fight that was to watch, right? Still one of the most classic fights, and fuckers just went to bang. And so then you knew you get out of high school. Did you go to? You said you went to college?
Yeah, I went to college for a week. I was gonna go wrestling. I was gonna go to school and think I wanted to wrestle. And I remember I got all my student loans, got all my books, went all of my first classes, the whole first week of school, and I was like, yeah, this shit ain't for me. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to go to school, and fighting was something that I was really passionate about, it like took over my whole world. And then I got this idea where I'm like, why all my friends are here investing in some education to work some bullshit job for some asshole. I'm like, I'm just going to invest in myself and my skills. And I want to take this fighting seriously, and it panned off, panned out.
And so how many amateur fights did you have?
I had 13 amateur fights, but it was actually very unique the way I was able to kind of build the start of my pro career and my amateur career. So I started fighting back when the state of Iowa didn't have an athletic commission for the sport of MMA. So it was literally just, you would show up. I mean, my first fight, I was like, showed up, I was like 150 pounds. I fought a guy that was over 200 pounds. You know what I mean? It was just like, it was kind of like the Wild West, no blood work, anything like that. So I was able to I had 2 amateur fights in Iowa, and I knocked them both out in like 30 seconds. They were really fast. And the promoter that was throwing the shows in Iowa also did professional shows in the state of Minnesota. So I was able to go fight, I had 2 amateur fights and then my first professional fight. And then I was able to come back to Iowa and fight a couple more amateur fights. And then I went back, fought another professional fight. So I was kind of able to ease into my professional career.
Okay.
So I had my first, 13 amateur fights during the time I had my first 3 or 4 professional fights. So.
And then you fought for Brutal Genesis, Iowa is what this was?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that was a pro promotion at the time?
So they did both. They did both professionally shows in the state of Minnesota and then amateur shows in the state of Iowa.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you fought there. You also fought in Minnesota. Basically, you had fought there for, geez, what, 16, 17 fights?
Yeah, I think so.
Those two promotions. And then you got an opportunity in MCC, which I believe is still going.
It's not actually.
No, it's
so,
not?
yeah. No, so that's a whole nother story, man. I got stories on that one. So yeah, I ended up fighting for Midwest Cage Championships. Ended up becoming the lightweight champion actually, and then got a fight with the RFA, and then the next fight was for the UFC. So yeah, awesome promotion. Like their track list, their history of getting fighters in the UFC is speaks for itself. It's a great promotion. I was actually lucky enough to buy the promotion.
Wow.
A few years ago. Yeah. So it was after I had been to the UFC. The previous owner was like, I'm getting rid of this. I don't want to do this anymore. You were a champion. You're a good name for the sport. And would you like to buy it? And so I bought the company, not knowing that I inherited a bunch of bullshit that had nothing to do with me. And I was kind of, I was more or less mistreated by the state of Iowa Athletic Commission. Just inherited some issues that had nothing to do with me. So,
oh man.
Long story short, I don't promote in the state of Iowa anymore. But
right.
What happens. We'll see what happens after I retire.
So do you still have family there? Do you still go visit there? Because you're in Las Vegas right now, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. All my family lives in the state of Iowa still, so I go back.
Did you like it there growing up?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I didn't really know any different. You know what I mean? Then after I moved away, I realized how much more opportunity, how much more was out on the West Coast. But then after being out on the West Coast for a while, then I go back home and I can really appreciate the things that there is to love about Iowa. Kind of the things that you don't really appreciate when you're there all the time.
And so then you got you got a chance in UFC, I assume, through your manager and through MCC, right? They were
Correct.
scouting you or something, and you were supposed to fight Joe Ellenberger, right?
So no, it actually originally was supposed to be Abel Trujillo.
Okay.
So my training partner at the time, Miles Jury, was I think it was like 3 weeks out. He was going to fight Abel Trujillo and blew his knee, and he couldn't fight. And and I was there. I was his main training partner for that camp, so I was in shape. I was ready to go. And my management got that fight set up. And then they decided they didn't want that fight. They wanted a bigger name or something at the time. It was too risky to fight, a newcomer like that on 3 weeks notice.
Right.
And then I ended up getting matched up with Joe Ellenberger. And then later that day, I was doing an eye exam, and then that's how I found out I had a detached retina.
Oh shit.
And I was pulled from my first fight.
And so, what did you do to remedy this detached retina?
So this was back when the UFC was Fertitta owned, and everything. It was back in that era. And not only did the UFC keep me, like they signed me for another fight, but they paid for my retina repair surgery as well.
Which is crazy because you had never fought for them before. So
never even fought
for
them.
Really believed in you.
Yeah, it was good, man. Yeah, like I thought that really spoke very highly of the ethics for sure.
What do you think you would have done if they wouldn't have paid for the surgery? Because it ain't cheap.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I probably would have. I don't know. I hate to even answer that question, to tell you the truth.
Wow. And just speaking of that, what would you be doing if you weren't fighting? What was your goal?
Man, I don't know. I don't know what I would be doing, but my girlfriend, Emily Whitmire.
I said hello.
Hey, Emily Whitmire, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, he says hello, baby. Says hi. Hey.
So you don't know what you'd be doing. Well, it's a good thing you're fighting because you're sure an exciting fighter. And so okay, so you get to fight 6, 7 fights in the UFC, something like that.
Yeah, I had 6 fights with the UFC.
And you were 4-2. Did you just not re-up your contract, or did they not?
So there was there were some issues with my management apparently at the time. So the UFC didn't like doing business with him anymore, and it was just easier to get rid of me, or just as easy not deal with him. And that kind of, I was kind of the byproduct of the situation.
They matched you up against some good guys in the UFC. I mean, Jan Cabral at the time was highly ranked. Jake Matthews, had some wins. Francisco Trevino. I mean, it's not like you weren't, a lot of people have asked me this question. I'm like, well, look at his UFC record. And if you watch those fights, you were an exciting fighter then too. And so you moved on to Beatdown Promotion, Iron Boy, and then you finally signed with PFL. Was that just a one-fight deal?
No, so actually, nobody tells you when you're in the UFC and you have a winning record, nobody wants to fucking fight you afterwards, unless
right.
It's so you're pretty much blacklisted in a way, because you might not be the big promotion, the other bigger promotions, Bellator, ONE FC, all shit like that, they're not as quick to bring in guys like that right away. You know what I mean? They kind of have their guys that they're building right away. So yeah, man, I had 2 fights. I was basically scraping together just to keep alive. You know what I mean? I was like, fuck, is this my career? Is this what I have to look forward to from now on? And then I met my girlfriend, my amazing girlfriend, Emily Whitmire. She trains here in Las Vegas at Extreme Couture. And Ray Seffo, the president of the PFL, he trained at the same gym. So she kind of got my name out there and let him know, like, hey, there's this exciting 55er. I shouldn't tell him we were dating at the time. Yeah. But like, oh, there's this 55er. And
you don't want to just say, hey, this is my boyfriend, he can fight, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I got my name out and got signed with the PFL and decided to move to Las Vegas and train at Extreme Couture. And and then I've been fortunate enough to I was signed for the very last qualifying fight of the lightweight tournament last year, and my opponent ended up missing weight by like 6 pounds. So that gave me a forfeit entry into the tournament.
Oh,
and,
okay.
And then I had a draw first round with the champion Natan Schultz. That tournament, it was a 2-fight in one night style format, and the first fight was only 2 rounds. And if it was a draw, if someone won the first, someone won the second, it turned out to be a draw. The format was the winner of the first round won the fight.
First round. What do you think about that? Because don't they still do that?
I think the format's still the same, but all it promoted was the guy to wrestle and take me down and lay on me. You know what I mean? Just try to control me and subdue me for the round. And in American MMA, that wins the round. Thank God for I love the way RIZIN does it, where it's like, you know what I mean? That's not winning. That's like subduing. Right. That's what a cop does. You know what I mean? Like, stop resisting. So yeah, anyway, he won the first round. He kind of just wrestled me up, controlled me. I didn't really feel an urgency to get to my feet. So that was kind of my bad. But from my, if you watch any of my fights, I'm kind of a slow starter anyway, So by the time the fight got going in the second round, the fight was over. So, he won the first round. I won the second round. Was landing a lot of strikes, keeping my distance, and then fight was over. He won.
Yeah, I've watched that fight. What do you think that it would be better if it was the winner of the second round? Because then it was,
I think, in that situation, fucking sudden. I don't know why they can't do a sudden death.
Well, I think it's because you can only fight so many rounds a night in the U.S., right? Unlike in RIZIN again, where you could fight a couple times in 2 days.
Well, the way I was always the way that I thought would be the best would be, instead of doing 5-minute rounds, why not do 3 3-minute rounds?
Oh, that's an interesting idea, because Invicta does that Phoenix Rising series that they've been started, and they do the same thing. It's because they can only fight 5-minute rounds. That's an interesting idea, though. I hadn't heard that one.
Because there's not actually the rounds, it's the time a night. So you can only fight 25 minutes total, 5 rounds worth of fighting.
Right.
So yeah, so as long as you're under the 25-minute mark, I think that's like 24, that's under 5 minutes of fighting. So.
Well, that would make a lot more sense, because then you'd actually get a winner. That's what kind of dissuades someone like me. Like, I watch as many organizations as I can. Of course, I support RIZIN the most because they're the best. But
yes.
But it's like I try to watch everything, and I've never understood why the winner of the first round It's just, yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
anything, to me, it's like, it's almost like if we were in a real fight, it'd be whoever was winning at the end of the fight, right? Just judge the fight as a whole, like you're saying, like they do in Japan.
Yeah. Agreed.
Anything else. And so you never got a call back from PFL, or did you just?
Did. So that was the thing. Actually, I had every intent with staying with the PFL just because of how amazing the company is, like how amazing like Ray, Sefo, and Ali and everybody treated me. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I was. That's where I wanted to be. You know what I mean? I thought that was way better than the UFC for sure. And but the only issue was I only had that one fight, and it had been, since I got cut from the UFC 2016. So I technically only had like one real fight in the PFL. When that wasn't even a real fight. That was only a 2-round fight. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it had been so much time since I had good competition. I decided I would take one fight with RIZIN and then get back with PFL when the next season started up, 2019 started up. So I ended up getting a fight with RIZIN and then against Yusuke Yachi, and won that fight and got offered another contract. So
had you watched RIZIN at this time?
Yeah, I had seen a little bit. Yeah, I've seen a little bit. Always a fan, obviously, like such a fan of the ancient Japanese rules and the ring, and I just love everything about. And Japan, obviously, everybody. If the MMA fans, don't really understand like how amazing Japanese MMA fans are. Like, fighters are like the highest calling over there. You know what I mean? Fighters are treated like royalty, like rock stars. So, like, just to be able to go over there and fight in front of those kind of fans, it's just you can't match it, man.
They're also very well educated fans. A lot of people ask me why because they're really quiet until action happens. I mean, if you're making some action happen, they get loud. It's not like they're always quiet, but they're not dumb drunk idiots yelling woo in the background the whole time because they're actually paying attention to it. I've heard every fighter that fights in RIZIN say the same thing, is that the fans really, really respect the fighters on a really high level, right? And so you had gotten this fight. Did you know right away did they offer you a contract right away after you beat Yachi? Because he was a pretty big name at the time. I mean, he still is.
Yeah, essentially, yep. Yeah, so I think I was kind of brought in to lose. I don't know. They were kind of just for an opponent. And, I came and spoiled the party. So I thought, hey, we better keep a hold of this kid. He's got a good product. So yeah, I ended up getting signed with them. And I it wasn't, I had the sure thing at the time. I had won a fight there, and they had mentioned about a Grand Prix tournament for the lightweight title.
I lost you on audio for a second.
Oh, so yeah, so I had that one fight with them, and then they had offered me the potential to fight for a title. So I decided to stick around.
Okay, and how soon did you know that Satoru Kitaoka was your opponent?
For my next fight?
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't remember. I think they gave me a good amount. Like they gave me like 6 weeks notice, I think.
And were you pretty aware of him and how he's never been submitted in 70 fights?
Yeah, I was really aware, and he had big wins over like Carlos Condit and Paul Daly and even now with like Crookshank and Kawhi. So I knew the guy was tough. I knew he was tough, but I also knew that I knew what his style was, and I knew that my style could beat that style. So I was very, I knew who I was fucking with, but I also knew that he didn't know who he was fucking with.
Right. Well, and in that fight, anybody that watched it, you had landed 100 consecutive elbows. I mean, it was something.
Yeah. I think it was 67 elbows and 121 significant head strikes.
And then you had hurt your elbow afterwards. I remember watching your post-fight press conference, and I was worried that you weren't going to make it to October. What was the diagnosis on the injury?
So when we were in the back room, so they had like this sonogram thing. It was like like what they put on pregnant women's bellies to kind of. So they did that on my elbow, and they said that they had saw a fracture, and but they didn't know for sure until I needed X-ray. And then I ended up getting back to the States, and it wasn't. Thank God it wasn't broken. I just had like a real deep bone contusion, like bruising.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had to take some time off, let it heal. I mean, it still kind of flares up. Like if I have hard sparring or hard wrestling, like it kind of flares up and tightens up. Like I can tell there's still some inflammation that needs kind of squeezed out of it a little
But you
bit.
got a month as of today, you know, till you fight, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Plenty of time.
How soon did you know? Because we just got the announcements 2 nights ago. Did you know that? I mean, surely you had to know some of the fighters that were going to be in because some of the qualifying matches. But how soon did you know? Were you aware before the press conference, or did you see it? I guess
That's when I found out as well. Yeah. So I didn't have any idea. Like I kind of knew, like I had heard that Pitbull was going to be in the tournament.
Right.
I figured Tofik would be in the tournament. I figured Damian Brown would be in the tournament.
Kawajiri, I thought as well, just because he had won the, you know, the fight that
Previous.
yeah, it seemed like it got him in. Even though as fans may not know, you don't necessarily have to win to get into some of these tournaments, right? Because they want exciting fighters. They don't want somebody to just go out there and kick your legs and outpoint you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're looking for finishers.
Right. That's why I think that you're a perfect fit there, and I hope that you stay with this organization because you could tell that you're trying to finish the fight. Even when you fought in your UFC fights and the PFL, you were actively trying to finish the fights. As a fan, I appreciate that, whether it's in Japan or China or, you know, anywhere. So much props on that. And so then we got the whole tournament. I mean, let me just go through a couple of these names, and then we'll get to some fan questions. But let me ask you this: is there someone that you would like to fight?
First round, you know, I was kind of thinking I wanted the toughest guy right away. You know what I mean? Just beat out the toughest guy. Either
What do you
being
think is who?
probably Pitbull or Tofik. I feel like they're probably like the most well-rounded. I feel like Tofik, myself, Satoshi, Pitbull, Damian Brown are probably the toughest guys. I feel like, yeah.
Somebody asked me last night who, you know, and I said, well, I could tell you that Tofik would be, you know, top 3 for sure. I don't know
It's me,
that he is.
Me, Tofik, and Pitbull. I think I'm definitely the better fighter out of all the 8 of us. I think I have more skills. I think it's just my time. You know what I mean? I feel like I've just been growing, and I've fucking had some ups and downs, and I've really got shit figured out in my life. And I've just been killing it in the gym, and I feel like this is my fucking tournament. But as far as competition, I feel like those 2 are probably neck and neck. Like it could either be Pitbull or Tofik. We'll see.
What do you think?
And Damian's
yeah. Well, and what do you think about Kawajiri? The fact that he has fought in the Pride Grand Prix in his 20s. What was it? The Dream Grand Prix in his 30s, and now the RIZIN Grand Prix. Do you think that's going to give him any kind of advantage? I know he's old, but
I don't know. Yeah, of course. Like you can never count a man out, especially a dangerous guy like that. You know what I mean? But he's not dynamic is the thing. He's a fucking danger. You get him on the ground, you start grappling with that guy. That's obviously not the way to win the fight. Right. That guy. The key is to stuff it. You know, stay long and stuff him and go to the ground, kick him in the head, just fuck him up, beat him up. You know, like it's not like you got to be a skilled fighter to understand that that's the game plan to go with. And I feel like he's so short and he is older. And I feel like I mean, against us fucking hungry up and comers, I don't feel like it's too high of a feat. You know what I mean? Like if I go out there and I perform shitty, yeah, he's gonna fucking take my head off.
Yeah,
but
right.
If I go out there and I perform like I know I can, I know the result will be.
And so not to pry too much, but what is the deal with your RIZIN contract now? Are you just fighting out the lightweight tournament, or do you have fights beyond that?
We'll see. You know, I kind of like the idea of winning this title and then just becoming a free agent, just for a little bit, just to kind of see what kind of offers we're given. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing this for that world title. You know what I mean? But I'm also doing this for my my financial future as well. So, I love RIZIN. It's where I want to be, but I need to make the most money I can in a short amount of time. So
short window for a fighter, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
How long do you see yourself doing this, Johnny?
Until it's not fun anymore. I don't know. I was just thinking about it. I don't know. Like you go through as a fighter, you're like, fuck, I had a hard week. Like, I don't know if I can do this into my fucking 40s. But I feel great though. Like, when I'm in camp and I'm fucking you know, I'm in shape and I'm feeling good and I'm fucking, that's when I'm the best person, you know what I mean? So until the day comes that I can't do it anymore, that's when I'm going to
You are
stop.
only 30 right now, right?
Yeah, just turned 30 this summer.
Wow, wow. So you're still relatively young. I mean, especially for that weight class, you know what I mean? And you have the experience. I think that you could do it for quite a while. Back to the Yusuke fight real quick. Did you know that did you have an inkling that they were bringing you in to lose? Because he had just lost to Gustavo and he was one of their headline attractions. So I kind of knew it as a fan too. Not that, I mean, not that I thought that you were going to lose, but that it was just, they're going to try to give him a softer touch. Do you think they just didn't realize how good you were, or?
I think they kind of wrote me out. Yeah, I think because it was, remember, I hadn't really had a fight to really represent myself.
Right.
You know what I mean? I got cut from the UFC off 2 losses.
Yeah.
You know, even though they were close losses, they were they were good fights. I had 2 fights, and then I had 2 fucking fights against, you know, lower level shows, guys that, you know what I mean, we're good, guys that are good, but they're not world class. You know what I mean? And then I lost the draw. I lost that draw to Schulte. That wasn't a really good representation of my skills. So yeah, I kind of thought they were like, man, this guy's got a good name. He was hot for a minute, but now he's kind of off. And little did they know, it fucking had nothing to do with my abilities. It just happened to fucking, those were the cards I was dealt at this stage of my career. So
And
yeah.
what was it like? Had you ever been to Japan before that fight?
Yeah, so actually my my UFC debut was in Tokyo, in Saitama.
That's right. In Saitama, right?
Yep, where I ended up getting performance of the night and finishing the guy in the second round. So,
but it's a different environment when you got the legendary Lenny Hart announcing your name compared to the UFC. It's a different presentation. Were you overwhelmed at all?
No, I haven't been overwhelmed. Like that's one thing that's good about just like experience and like being on the mat at a very young age. You know what I mean? Wrestling in front of all the, you know, the state. Like it's never really it's you there?
Yeah.
So it's never the environment that kind of persuades me. You know what I mean? The only thing that can persuade me is me. So definitely like it's kind of cool to me. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just new bells and whistles and kind of, you know, shiny new bright flashing lights and stuff like that.
I was gonna say, would you say that the opening ceremony influences you, and does it get you hype?
Oh fuck yeah, yeah. Oh yeah,
it does to a mutant home.
That's sick. Yeah, the opening ceremony is without a doubt the coolest part of any promotion I've ever fought in throughout the world. Man, UFC can't even stand a chance.
No, I don't think any organization does, and I think they're even better than what Pride was. You know, I mean, of course, we're further down the line just as far as their opening ceremony, and then Lenny Hart is just in prime form every time. I mean, you know, give people chills sitting on their couches, right?
Yeah.
And so we do know that the semifinals are going to be. Do we know if they're going to be on the same night as the finals?
So from my understanding, it'll be the semis will be the night before New Year's Eve and the final on New Year's Eve.
Okay, so like they do it with the 16-man kind of. They would have on the 29th and then the 31st, right?
Yeah.
And have you ever fought 2 times like that back to back?
No, just for that PFL tournament would have been my first time, and obviously I didn't get past the first round. So no, this will be my first experience.
And what about practicing soccer kicks and head stomps and stuff? Because you can't just practice these on your training partners, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's been kind of challenging. Like the main thing is like you don't really need to throw the technique because it's not really a refined technique. You know, it's a pretty primitive technique. Just fucking stomp him or soccer kick him. I mean, so it's not like you need a lot of reps to really do that. Right. But it's just like getting that to where you're attacking that. So like you get up, you stand out of guard, and like whereas most guys who fight American rules, they're just like, oh, I'm just gonna put my feet up. But I start stepping around and like mime kicking at their fucking head and shit. And they're like, oh yeah, I forgot.
So it's kind of just training your mental and your muscle memory to maybe move their legs to the side. Because like Fedor was really good at that for a long time, at standing up, just throwing their legs to the side and then throwing a soccer kick to the face, right?
Yeah, totally. And knees to the head too. Like you pull them out in front headlock and like, you know, kind of just tap them with the knees, or like they're in side control. You get them in side control, you can really hammer those knees right down by their head, like hit the cage floor, but let them know like those are coming to your head, you know? So it's basically like I'm a good training partner. I would never just fucking, fuck up partners
Right.
and I would never do that and not expect them to try to fucking do something.
Right. And then you're not going to make it to the fight.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's smart training, but it's been more or less just mentally going over those scenarios than anything.
Do you think the knees to the head of a grounded opponent, how do you think it changes the dynamics of a fight as it pertains to wrestling?
For one, it makes the result a lot more efficient. You know what I mean? If you want to knock out, if you want a fight finished, why the fuck would you not have that weapon available? You know what I mean? It's a sledgehammer to the face anytime the presents itself. I think it changes the fucking quote unquote sport to a real fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, how many fights? I mean, that's a real position in the real world. And, like what rules, like, now you can be attacked in that position. So don't hang out there and try to fucking, not stall, basically is what you're doing. You're trying to stall and kind of catch your breath. So it's like, no, it's like, if you're on the ground, you're in fucking danger.
You're in danger. You got to get out of it. And we've seen it a lot. I mean, we saw it in like did you get to see Ishiwatari against Oka Sasaki?
I don't recall that one.
That was the last event. Shintaro Ishiwatari, the former king of Pancrase, he had knocked Oka Sasaki down and then had some brutal knees, which forced Sasaki to basically turn to his back and give up. It was a head and arm choke, north-south choke is what it ended up being. But I mean, that choke probably wouldn't have happened under UFC rules because, like you said, of the way he had to evade. But as far as, some fans are like, oh, it's so brutal. I'm like, is it any worse than when Crow Cop kicked someone to the damn skull? I mean,
Yeah.
You think it's a worse technique as far as pain or physical damage?
Yeah, no, I mean, no. What's the difference between getting kneed? I mean, granted, the ground is a really nasty barrier, but to land, I would say a stomp is probably about the most brutal thing you can do if you can get it. But then again, the physics have to be so perfect for it to really be the most highly effective. You know what I mean? Like, who's to say somebody couldn't fucking elbow you in the head harder than they could stomp on your face? You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think if you could fucking get the kinesiology down and get the utmost power and fucking force and have your leg locked out at the right time, I think a stomp could be pretty fucking vicious.
Yeah, right to the front of the nose. Yeah, nobody wants that. What about the blood in Japan? Have they ever talked to you about this, or have you just learned this from watching fights? Because as you see, fights will get stopped way quicker from a cut than they will from somebody getting kneed in the head.
Yeah, and that kind of worries me a little bit in a way. You know what I mean? Because I've had some pretty good cuts throughout my my career, especially some lately. Just not even from fights, but from training. You know what I mean? Just fucking get just dumb things happen in the training room. Getting split wide open, and so now scar tissue there. So, how silly would that be if I just get touched in the face and my face opens up and they want to call the fight? So that kind of worries me in a way. But it's came to my advantage. My first fight with Yachi, you know what I mean? Like he was bleeding. That eye was damaged pretty.
I was going to say that was a bad cut, though. I mean, that wasn't, that was a pretty bad cut.
Yeah, I agree. So maybe it wasn't there, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of worries me. I hope they wouldn't stop the fight prematurely.
Did you get a chance to see the Grand Prix in 2017?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
It was when Horiguchi won. He had gotten cut against Manel Cape that night because they fought twice on the 31st because it was a 16-man tournament. He got cut against Manel Cape, and they did stitch him up. And he fought 2.5 hours later against Shintaro Ishiwatari and knocked him out. And it was, they show it on Confessions, and it was a pretty good cut. And so I think that if you're able to get to the semifinals, I think they're going to give you a little more leeway when it comes to the things like cuts, because that Horiguchi fight technically could have been stopped because of that cut, but they knew he was the best and said, "Hey, stitch him up, Doc." You know what I mean?
Nice. Yeah, and RIZIN's always. Of course, I know the president and in the fight, the matchmaker and everything. Everybody knows like fighters are fighters, and yeah, they're not bad. They're the best promoters in the world. You know what I mean? So I think they realize when a fighter can fight and when a fighter can. Hi, Bruce.
Hey, what's up, dog?
Apparently he wants to be.
Hell yeah. He's on the podcast. Nice guest. What do you think? What do you think about Hiroto? Have you watched him fight very much, Hiroto? You say?
I don't,
Or you
man. No,
saw him?
I just watched his last fight, and to be honest, like I was kind of surprised he was in the tournament, or like I'm surprised he was in the tournament. And who's the guy that just fought Yachi on the main event last fight?
Mikuru Asakura fought Yachi,
That,
but he's
that's
not in it. Yeah, it's Luis Gustavo that got in it. He fought Yachi as well.
Yes. I couldn't believe that the last guy that just beat Yachi wasn't in the tournament. What are they like?
Well,
He's got a brother, right?
Mikuru is a natural featherweight, and he doesn't want to be a lightweight. He just doesn't want. He had to move up in weight. Yachi called him out, and he didn't. That was why there was so much disrespect in that fight. Is because he was mad that the bigger guy called him out. Mikuru is his natural featherweight, and he just doesn't. He said he doesn't want to fight at lightweight. Why should he have to gain weight when he barely has to cut any weight to fight at featherweight? You know.
That makes sense. See, I was like, that guy was a good kickboxer. I thought for sure he would be in the tournament because that fight was at 70 kilos. So like,
he did move up to Yachi's weight. I mean, 70 kilos is what, almost 155, right? 154 or something.
Yeah, 154.3.
And he looked good in that fight. Mikuru Asakura is a scary guy, you know. I mean, he'd be a good person for this tournament. But yeah, from what I understand and from everything I've read, he just doesn't want to do it. I mean, if you didn't have to cut that much weight and you fight that good at featherweight, I can't really blame the guy, you know. Because
right.
And speaking of that, how much weight do you generally
cut? So like I'm only like 21 pounds over right now. So I'm pretty light for the weight class. I don't have like a 25, 30 pound cut like some of these guys. But yeah, I mean, I get up to like the heaviest I get to is like 182, 183. You know,
but doesn't flying affect that? Like, are you ever worried about when you fly over there?
So no, the last two weight cuts I've had have been so smooth. They've been like the easiest weight cuts of my whole career. So I feel like it's just getting easier and easier. You know, the process isn't always that fun, but it's getting where it's easy. Like I know what to expect, and it's super easy on the body. So.
Right. Quick question from Mr. Teep to the Junk here. I see he wants to know the difference between fighting in a ring and a cage, and had you fought in a ring before, RIZIN?
Sure. So actually, my second professional fight was in a ring, and I didn't really know enough about fighting at the time to really know the difference there. I just thought it was more or less we were there. But yeah, definitely fighting in a cage versus fighting in a ring it changes. That changes everything on the sport, really. And the way that Japanese MMA is scored, it makes sense that they don't fight the cage. You know what I mean? Because they don't want guys to press on you and just kind of wear you out. And whereas like that's a big aspect of American MMA is like you can put guys on the cage, you can drain them up, but you can also use the cage to get up off the ground too.
Right.
Right. So cage wrestling is something that is non-existent when you're on the cage. But in the ring, it makes when you clinch, it makes the body locks. You're almost getting into the body all the time. So it makes it it changes the wrestling aspect. You can't really like press guys on the fence and set up your folk style wrestling, start attacking the legs and taking them down there. It's more like you get them to the fence and like it's Greco-Roman wrestling. You know what I mean? You're either Muay Thai in clinch or your upper body and you're, pulling lats and trying to bump knees and shit. So definitely changes the sport. Plus like, getting up, now you don't have a cage. So you got to, if your goal is to get up, you got to know you're really good. Your get ups from the middle. So,
do you think that it's easier to not be taken down in the ropes though, because it's not quite that barrier? Is there?
No, I mean, no. I don't think it. I don't know. No, because if a guy knows how to use the cage really well, then your defense doesn't matter anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if the guy knows how, you know what I mean? Like he's getting to the body is almost worse right away. If he's got good head position, he's got you in a tight body lock. If he can just do that from the beginning, whether it's a fence or a ring or not, he's 9 out of 10 times probably going to win that position. But with a cage, I guess like I can push my back completely up to the fence, and he can't really get that body lock right away. He's got to kind of drag me off, use my legs to drag me off, try to wrap up. So it's like, but then again, they're just different.
What would you prefer?
A cage.
Okay.
Cage fighting. Yeah. The ropes fighting's fighting.
Right.
But it just feels like when you go through the ropes or like shit like that, like I don't like that. And that's like an interruption of my fight. You know what I mean? Like it's interruption. Like I just want to be able to be locked somewhere and just fucking push the go button. Boom.
But you also want to be able to knee him in the head and shit too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The rule set's way better. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love the knee. Yeah. I love the stomps, the soccer kicks, the knees to the head on the ground. Hopefully they'll let us use elbows this tournament. I haven't really heard yet.
Okay.
They're going to allow it, but yeah, I mean, we're fucking fighting. We're professional fighters. You know what I mean? Like, why limit our tools? You know what I mean? If we're truly mixed martial arts, why not?
I have heard that there's 2 alternates for the semifinals. Have you heard this?
I have not.
Okay.
No. What you got?
I don't remember if it was Shingo or if it was the RIZIN account on Reddit, but that's just what I heard. It's that they do have 2 alternates just in case. So that kind of tells me that maybe they are going to let people use elbows.
Yeah.
I think last Grand Prix they did, I think. So also let me ask you this. Well, first I want to compliment you and tell you that maybe you should, just in a suggestion, I would love to see you as like a stand-in commentator for RIZIN, like they had Ben Wynn. Your analyst just now with the cage and stuff. I was like, holy shit, this guy could be on the microphone speaking. Have you ever thought of doing that?
Yeah, I've done it a few times actually. I thought it was pretty cool. Back when I was with the UFC, I remember we were trying to get something like that worked out and Fox and stuff like that, but it just never took. So yeah, I mean, that's something I've always been interested in. And
well, because RIZIN does do that, you know. I mean, they've had Gilbert Melendez there as a guest commentator for the Horiguchi fight they had for Horiguchi and Caldwell. And then last event on Fight TV, Frank Trigg wasn't there, so they had Ben Lynn, who's a bantamweight there. And
yes.
So, you know, the possibility that's open there. And so, all right, ideally you'd want to take on the best here in the first round. Let's say they put you against Tofik. What's the game plan of him compared to Pitbull, since you said those are probably the best 2 guys?
Nothing, man. The game plan for anybody doesn't really change. You know what I mean? My game plan is always is about me. You know what I mean? The styles, obviously, those guys are complete MMA fighters. So what does that mean? I'm going to fucking mix it up. I'm just going to give my biggest and best bag of tricks. And, you know, I can kickbox, I can wrestle, I can submit people. So we're just going to get our fucking hands dirty and get to work. That's all that means. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you had mentioned Hirota earlier. Had you ever seen his opponent? Yves Landu was who that guy was?
No, never. That's why I was kind of surprised. I remember seeing something like for the last position of the Grand Prix tournament, and I was like, man, even like Yachi is a way better fighter. Gomi, you know what I mean? I was thinking like guys like
Gomi would be in.
I thought for sure they would be, but yeah, I don't know. Apparently, RIZIN sees something in him that.
Hirota is good. I just thought that fighting Landu was kind of weird because, and the other thing is that fight was really strange because Yves Landu hit him with a mean switch kick and was kind of piecing him up on the feet, right? And then for whatever reason, he went for some dumb ankle pick, and fight got stopped when he was on top of him, and that was a really weird fight. And so that was kind of hard to judge. But of course, they want Japanese people in there, and currently there's 3 Brazilians in there. There's an Australian. You're the only American in the fight, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Tournament. And so what would it mean to you to win this besides just winning a world title? Would it be the biggest accomplishment of your career?
Oh yeah, I would say for sure it'd be the biggest compliment of my career, you know? Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny how everything kind of comes full circle, you know what I mean? Like I remember in the position after I was cut from the UFC and thinking like that was it for my career, you know what I mean? Thinking I didn't have anything to look forward to, and now I have the ability to fight for a world championship. I mean, I can't tell you how much. I can't even begin to explain to you, you know, the feeling of just like gratitude and, you know, and pride of just, you know, riding through the tough times and fucking, it just gives me all the power and all the strength I need to go take care of business and secure my legacy for my career.
Well, and then have you got to see the belt?
Yeah, the belts are fucking sick, man. I gotta hold one actually. So
which one was it? This Grand Prix belt, or you haven't seen that one yet?
No, I haven't seen the Grand Prix belt. I haven't. I'm sure it's.
They haven't put that out yet, but that's why I was asking you that, is because that's a belt that, you know, Horiguchi won the 2017 Grand Prix, but they didn't introduce a bantamweight title until the next year. So that's a belt that, you know, I mean, they might make a lightweight belt after that, but it'll be the lightweight Grand Prix belt. You'll be the only person to ever hold that in, you know, in the history of the world. There's only one lightweight Grand Prix winner in 2019, and it's not a belt that could be defended, you know. And so I think that's the coolest part about it personally. You know what I mean? You're gonna you could have a belt on your wall that nobody's ever gonna have again, because they don't. I don't know if you ever saw Crow Cops when he won the open weight one, but it's unique and unlike any other belt ever. And so I think that's cool. I think RIZIN has innovative strategies and things. Let me ask you this also, with the judging. Have you ever watched Deep Impact or Deep Jewels? It's one of RIZIN's peer promotions.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen a few shows. Yeah,
they use 5 judges. Have you ever used any kind of other judges rule set besides these 2?
I haven't fought under. No, it's pretty much all my you know, American fights have always been the 3 judge criteria, which I never agreed with anyway. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many flaws to do with the American way of scoring and judging the fight. So I think Japan's really got leaps and bounds, you know, ahead of America as far as knowledge.
Do you think it's just the 10-9 system, or do you think that adding more judges, or what would you do?
I think adding more judges is what it takes. And I think that they should score the fucking fight. Like, if they're gonna, they should score it as a whole. You know what I mean? Like, or if they're gonna stick with the American way, if they're gonna stick with judging it by rounds, you should present at the end of the round who won the fucking fight. I think that would certainly help the criteria as well. Like, if a fighter knows, oh, I'm down 2 rounds, I got to go out and fucking put it on this round or I lose the fight. I think that's just I don't know why it's an old timey way. They just fucking, they're gonna score round per round and then they just leave, like, it just, yeah. I just
it's the boxing model, and it doesn't make any sense to me, because just like you said, if you're down 2 rounds, even if they announced it and they said, look, you lost both the first 2 rounds 10-9, then even a 10-8's not winning you the round. And we know that they don't like to give out 10-8s in Bellator, UFC, anywhere, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And when the hell do you see a 10-7 round?
Ever.
Right?
Never.
So you're not winning that fight unless you stop the guy. But in a real fight, if I'm outpointing you the first 2 rounds and then you're just fucking me up at the end of the fight and you're on top of me, who really won the fight? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, we see it all the time, and I totally agree. I think that the rest of the world needs to come around and look at the rule set and see that it's not boxing, right? Boxing makes sense because you have 10, 12 rounds to do those 10-9. In a 3-round fight, it's fucking ridiculous. I mean, people are complaining. Do you watch the UFC currently still?
Yeah, I watch. Yeah, I don't watch it like every weekend.
You happen to watch this last card, the Abu Dhabi card?
I didn't watch the card. No.
Okay, well, the Paul Felder and Edson Barbosa fight was 30-27. Someone gave it to Felder, and one of the other judges gave it 30-27 to Barbosa. I mean, that's how fucked up it is. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Barbosa. What? It goes like, what the fuck? It makes you think, like, what fights were they watching?
It was weird because it was a close fight. Everyone agrees it was a close fight. Most people thought Barbosa won. He's appealing the decision. But the point is that, like you said, what the hell were they watching? And I think if you put 5 judges at least there, if you're going to stick with that unified scoring, you put 5 judges, I think you're a lot less likely to have 2 of them be erroneously fucking Adelaide Bird or something, right? Blind as shit.
Exactly. Yeah. I like the 5. Yeah, the fives. Like, you can keep the 10-9. You can keep that system if you have more judges.
Right.
Or more rounds.
Are you a fan of MMA fighters? Do you have or did you ever have a favorite fighter?
Yeah, Dominic Cruz. He was like back in like WEC days, like early. Yeah, Dominic Cruz was like my fucking he was like my favorite fighter for sure. And then I ended up actually moving to California and training with the dude for 3 years. He's still a cool motherfucker. Still one of my favorite fighters, hands down.
That's awesome. Who do you train with currently? Who are some of the names you train with that really instrumental?
So I trained with like Kevin Lee. He's a good training partner here. This kid Max Rushkoff. Yeah, he's welterweight now, but he's had some fights at lightweight as well. Yeah. Justin James, tough ass kid. Jeremy Kennedy, who's a UFC guy. The other kid, his name is Max Roshkoff. So he's only 4 fights here called the FFC here in Las Vegas. Man's a fucking stud. Like, you know, a lot of people don't know his name yet because he's only 4-0, but he's gonna be a good successful MMA fighter for sure. But he's probably my main partner, I would say.
FFC, you say, is in Vegas?
FFC, yeah, FFC in Las Vegas.
Are they a new promotion?
Yeah. No, so actually they started off with, they were like a European promotion. Like they're really big in Poland, I think, maybe. Something like a European promotion. And then they decided to start doing fights here in Las Vegas.
All right.
They do those like every Thursday, and it's actually been really fucking, and they fight in the ring as well. So
wow.
Yeah, so they do, it's kind of and they do kickboxing as well.
Wow. Yeah. Where is this telecast anywhere, or are you just going to these events live?
I don't know. Yeah, I've never even been to an event, to tell you the truth, because they always go on Thursday nights, and so I spar Thursdays tonight, and then I go coach. I coach an amateur MMA team here in Las Vegas, so I've never had the luxury to go. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: the canvas and RIZIN, does it? How much does it differ to like the UFC canvas?
Same canvas, just way fucking more badass. Like the last time I fought on 17, they fucking hand painted the whole thing. Like the whole middle of it had like flames and shit. The thing was hand painted. Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
That was awesome.
They go, yeah, dude. They're amazing. Like the attention to detail and like just the things that go into a RIZIN event that like you wouldn't be able to like know if you weren't there, and like, you know, experiencing it firsthand is just like, it's over the top. I mean,
well, from speaking to Lenny Hart, you know, I had her on the podcast. I didn't even know that there was 5 announcers, right? Because even on TV, I mean, you hear one of the main guys that worked in Pride along. He does the opening ceremony, right, with Lenny Hart, but you wouldn't even know that. And so I'm sure that there's a bunch of little intricate details. When you're in the back, are you watching other fights?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, and so say that, I mean, this upcoming fight, I imagine that you're going to be higher up on the card just because it's the lightweight Grand Prix, but in the semifinals, they may, you know, put these fights a little earlier so people have more time to rest. You know, sometimes they do that. Would you prefer to fight earlier on the card?
Yeah, I don't really care. Yeah, I guess so. Earlier is better because you can just fucking get done with it and go, you know, you can get celebrating sooner. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're cutting out.
I lost you for just a minute. Are you there? You go. Can you hear me?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Have you gotten to fight and then go out into the crowd and watch the rest of the fights?
I have. Yeah. So I have. RIZIN's awesome about that. Like RIZIN's, they're like, yeah, you want to fight? Go watch them. Yeah. Awesome. They walk you right out and set you up front. And that's something UFC wouldn't allow. Like after you fought, you couldn't go out and mingle with the fans. You couldn't go out and like, you know what I mean? Like you go to the green room. That was about it. So yeah, I mean, back when it was like when I first started with the UFC, it wasn't so bad like that. I think go back, but then my last recent ones with the UFC, they're like, no, you're not out. You're not out in the crowd. You're in the back. You're in the locker room or the green room. So it's been cool to go out and mingle and like, you know, be able to be in the atmosphere that you fought in.
So if you fight, and then let's just say Damian Brown fights, you know, Kawajiri, you'll try to go out there and watch that fight right after.
Hell yeah! Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you think would you see more sitting there at ringside? I lost you just for a minute here.
I would be able to see his heart. I mean, that's something you can't like you don't get the pure form of the one-on-one competition like you do live in person. You know what I mean? Like you can watch skills and that kind of looks the same. That translates all the same, but you don't get a fucking, you know, like you don't get to hear and experience there's just so many little things that you just don't experience unless you're in person. You know what I mean? The intimate moments of the fight. You know what I mean? Times when he's hurt, times where he's like, you can see it in his eyes that he don't want to fucking keep going, but he does. You know, the times where you can see it in his eyes he quits, and he does quit. You know what I mean? Like situations like that you just can't. It doesn't translate well through the screen.
Have you seen, I mean, I'm sure you've seen that before in your opponents. Have you seen that while you're sitting across the cage or the ring from somebody and then really attack them the next round?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that's the thing. Like that's what makes the fight. Like that's what the moments of the fight that really can change. That's where you feel the momentum. You know what I mean? Like you see on TV, like someone gets, it looks like they barely get hit with a shot. You know what I mean? And like next thing you know, like they're like hurt or whatever.
Right.
But you can sense it. There's intimate about a fight. You know what I mean? Like it's not just like body to body. It's like soul to soul. You know what I mean? Like you're fighting this other man's soul, like his will. You know what I mean? So, and once you feel, like you can feel it, you can sense when the will in him is getting less and less. And when you can feel when he feels like, you know, he's got a break, like his spirit has been broken. You know what I mean? Like that's a real thing. You know what I mean? Like the emotions attached with the combat, like that's something you can only experience by being there, by seeing it in the flesh and being in that atmosphere.
That's the first time I've ever heard anyone phrase it like that you could see someone's heart from watching the ringside. But I mean, it makes sense, you know? What about the visibility on TV? Have you watched a RIZIN event on TV? Did you catch that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're sick, man.
Yeah, I mean, the presentation itself
Yeah,
even translates on TV. Would you say that it's even more than that in person? I mean, is it even more
oh
live,
yeah.
more hype?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for
For
sure. I
those that
can't even,
haven't ever went to a RIZIN event, do you think that that's the best show that you could possibly go to as far as just overall show? Would you tell?
without a doubt. There's no doubt. I mean, it's like the fucking Super Bowl. You know what I mean? It's like the Super Bowl every time they have an MMA event. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I've even my coaches my last time. You know what I mean? They've coached some fighters in the best promotions in the world. You know, UFC, Bellator, like everything. Every top promotion in the world. They've coached fighters at, except for Pride and now RIZIN. And they were like, dude, this hands down. Nothing else even comes close, man. Nothing else even compares to a fucking RIZIN event. For sure.
And you haven't gotten to be at a New Year's Eve one in person yet, right?
No, that was my debut.
Well, that was, I'm sorry, that was RIZIN 14 because that was at Saitama. Well, see, so you got to start at the biggest of all events. But what I was going to say about that one is Takada didn't hit the drum at that one. Do we know if he's going to do that this year? Do you have any insight?
I don't know. They said, what was that? That event was the last reign of the Emperor, right?
Yes.
Whatever. And then the Emperor is who you're saying he didn't hit the gong or whatever.
No, it was Takada, the general manager that used to fight.
Oh,
he's the one who used to hit the drum. He'd come out in his fundoshi, you know, the little I don't know what you describe that as, but yeah, I mean, he'd come and hit the drum while the opening ceremony was going on. For whatever reason, last New Year's was the first time he ever didn't do it that I could ever remember in Pride or RIZIN history.
damn. No, I guess I didn't even catch that. I don't know.
Yeah, because sometimes like they'd have that big drum with the big Z on it, you know, and he would sit there and hit it. And anyway, the fans love that shit. We're gonna move on to some fan questions, then I'll let you go, bro.
Right.
We got one here from Charles Fraga. He says, please ask him why he thinks the PFL didn't invite him back for season 2, despite their season 1 lightweight champ to a draw. We kind of talked about that, I guess.
Yeah, they did want me back, and I kind of wanted to be back with them, but I wanted to pick up a fight in between the tournament, the seasons, and I ended up winning a fight, and then got offered something that was for sure. I signed the contract right there. So. And
you wanted to be back with them just because you had, like you said, you met Grace Effo, and you kind of knew some of the people there, and they were real cool, or what?
Yeah, and they're fucking awesome. Like they put the fighters first. You know what I mean? It's a great promotion. And that's what, you know what I mean? Like after getting such a sour deal with the UFC, I was kind of like, man, like I would fight anywhere with fucking people with loyalty and ethics. You know what I mean? Like, because I felt like I was just cut for fucking collateral damage, you know?
Well, and that, I mean, it could happen with managers, but I remember when that happened, and it was like all the questions were circulating on the internet. Why in the hell was Hollywood cut from the UFC at 4-2? You know, and that's why I'm glad you broke that down to us, because I had wondered myself. We got Borjux on Reddit. He asked him, who gives you the most trouble in the lightweight tournament, and who gives you the least, in your opinion?
Most trouble.
You got Roto, Damian Brown, Pitbull, Souza, Kawajiri, Tofik, and Gustavo.
I'd say the person who gives me the most trouble. I don't really think a person. I mean, everybody's tough. I don't really see any person giving me a hard trouble, but the situations that'll give me trouble would be getting a cut or getting hurt early. Like if someone can get on me in the quick, I think that's probably going to have the best chance. But man,
They're all tough.
No, I know my abilities and I know what I can go through. I don't see any of them fucking matching me in that department. So
what about, and this is just my personal question, would you be interested in going to Bellator to fight a cross promotion fight?
Yeah, definitely. That would be cool. I know they did that with the Caldwell and Horiguchi and Haina got to go. Yeah, fuck yeah.
And that's something I think that they might do with the winner of this Grand Prix, because that's kind of what happened with Horiguchi is he won the Grand Prix, then they set up a belt for him, and then they were, so the winner of this Grand Prix just, could be just a rumor, but possible that they fight the 55 champ in Bellator, which would be an amazing, amazing thing. The same guy also asked if you had any cool behind the scenes fun facts about RIZIN.
Oh man, I don't know. They're fucking awesome. I don't know.
Quite the riot.
It's just the coolest fucking thing ever. It's I don't know. It's the coolest job, the coolest people. Everybody's super awesome, super respectful. Behind the scenes, I mean, I don't know. It's without a doubt the most professional ranch show that I've ever fought for. Saitama's awesome. Japanese fans are fucking awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any unique.
No, that's cool. How long before will you go out?
Just 3 days.
And they pay for you and one cornerman, right?
Me, one cornerman, and 2 rooms. Yeah.
Okay. And do you share locker rooms with other fighters?
Yeah, I have for sure. They're usually 3 fighters per dressing area.
Okay.
Saitama, but I've never fought in Osaka before. This one's gonna be, so We'll see. Maybe that'd be nice if we all get our own rooms. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. What about the media there? And there's not very much English media, right?
No.
I mean, I think you're maybe asked one question or something last time at the post-fight press conference. Is that strange for you? Do you know any Japanese at all?
I don't know any Japanese, man, and I really think that that would really help my status over there if I could speak Japanese. So I think that's definitely something I want to do and look into. But I've looked into it a little bit. It's fucking hard, man. And Japanese language is one of the hardest to learn, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, and especially as you get older, you get dumber as far as learning shit, right?
Exactly.
If I was to try to teach my daughter Japanese at 17, she could pick it up way quicker than me or you could, Yeah. But you know what? Actually, I talked to. Do you know who Stuart Fulton is? He calls Pancrase events and he's a commentator. Anyway, he.
I know of him. Yeah. I know.
Yeah. Well, he moved over there and didn't speak a lick of Japanese. And I talked to this guy, I know him a little bit, and he said it's not quite as hard as you would think if you're around it and you're listening to it every day. So it's if you immerse yourself in that culture, he said, he was speaking it not perfectly fluently, but within a year, which is pretty damn impressive. And that was just self-taught. So, because I had always heard too, it's the most difficult, but I'm trying to learn it actively myself. The easiest thing for me is to watch the RIZIN Confession series and watch them without subtitles, try to see what's going on, watch it over and over, listen to it over and over, and then watch it with the subtitles and see how close I was. You know what I mean? So that might help you. All right, we got RIZIN Max asking, we talked about that, the elbow injury. All right, and this person asked you, gun to your head, who you want to fight in the first round. We kind of touched on that, but the advantages, I guess I'd say, of fighting. Do you think just getting you said you wanted to fight Pitbull or someone tough in the first round? Is that just to get rid of that person?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, just take out one of the top, But then that might, because if I'm thinking about strategy, then I might get Pitbull first round and then get Tofik second round, and then So I mean, it's all about the strategy too. So I think it'd be good to have those two fight each other.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Then it would be you know, then it would just be one. And then maybe fight that guy in the finals. I think, you know, make more sense. So I think maybe if I'm thinking strategy, it's probably going to make more sense to have either Hiroto or Bone Crusher. I think.
Right.
So in a perfect world, I could fight or Gustavo. You know what I mean? I think so any of those three, I think I could fight, and then let Satoshi and Damien fight, and let Tofik and Pitbull fight.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying there. That makes a lot of sense. Do you think that? Well, let me ask you this, because of course the Johnny Cage question had to come up. Do you like to be called Johnny Cage? This guy says he's your number one fan, by the way. His name is Johnny Chavez. And he says, would you ever consider walking to the ring dressed as Johnny Cage? And
dude, I actually thought about it, actually. So it's really big in Japan, too, to have that, like, showmanship and kind of have, like, that good entrance and shit. My problem is, like, it's hard for me to turn off the switch of, like, go time and be, like, parading around. It's like by the time I'm walking, I'm ready to fucking destroy something. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard for me to be in a character where I'm like, but I thought about doing it for weigh-ins, actually. That'd be kind of, so, and also a lot of people don't know this, but when I fought in Mexico, my third fight with the UFC, the announcers there were calling me Johnny Cage.
yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Weigh-in's that's actually a good idea, the weigh-in, because same thing with deep and stuff. The weigh-ins are really exciting. I don't know if you saw when Kana Watanabe bent the frying pan. Did you see her?
Oh, yeah, I did see that one.
Yeah, and we love that. We love Kanako Murata when she pulls her shirt over her face and it's got the mask. You know, people love that. Do we know how they're going to select the opponents in the tournament? Have you been informed of this at all?
I think we're doing it like a draw next week. I think we're all going to Skype in, and they originally wanted us to fucking fly to Japan next week, and I'll be there in person and do it. I'm like, man, that's going to fuck up so much. Like, because if I'm going to go over there for 3 weeks and then it's 3 weeks for the fight, like I might as well just stay and train there and
right.
Because I'm not. I mean, by the time I fly there and then fly back, then I'm jet lagged for the next 2 weeks. Then I leave for Japan again, and it's like,
and you're missing days of training. So you guys are just going to Skype in unless they're already Japanese fighters. So there might be a few of them there.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And is that a pretty fair way? I mean, is that the way that you would like it, or have you seen like how Bellator has? Have you seen how Bellator is doing their second round?
I haven't. No, I have not.
Their featherweight tournament is going to be like K1 used to do. So you're going to go like pick a slot on the wall. So you could pick like the number 1 or 2. Well, the next guy that draws can go pick, I want to fight Johnny Cage, or I want to fight number 3 here, who's nobody's there yet. So that's kind of interesting. And I wonder if the second round is going to be the same. You don't know about this at all?
No, I don't know anything about it. No. So hopefully, that's a cool way to do it. To be honest,
it was the old K1 method, and like I said, it also is like the dates. So you could say that your elbow gets all fucked up, right? You could go select number 5 if nobody's on number 5, because number 5 isn't until December or some shit. You know what I mean? And so it's actually a cool way to decide things. All right, we got the last one. Guy, of course, said he was your number 1 fan. Shout out to Johnny Chavez. Favorite sport, favorite thing to do when you're not watching or when you're not fighting? Do you have a favorite sport, and what is your favorite activity besides training?
I like weapons training, like gun tactics, and learning like knife fighting tactics and shit like that. Like just being outdoors and hiking a lot. I rode motorcycle. I raced dirt bikes for a good part of my life, so I really love just getting out and mixing it up on the track too. Just being outside and just doing redneck shit. That's kind of
and last one from me, buddy. I really appreciate your time. For real, you've been more than generous. Music. What do you train to different music than you listen to? What do you train to? What kind of music?
So I train whatever my soul feels in the time, dude. Like rap, rock. I like punk, I like country, I like fucking jazz, I like reggae. I literally listen to it all, but it depends on how my mood is and how my mindset is and where I kind of want to be. I'll hit pads to some reggae, I'll hit pads to some rock, I'll hit it to fucking social distortion, dude. I don't even care, dude. Like, just whatever I'm feeling at the time.
Hell yeah. Well, Johnny K, thank you so much for joining us. I hope to have you back on in the future. Best of luck in the first round. We'll all be watching. I'm in Colorado right now, so it'll be fucking 5 a.m. by the time you're fighting, but I'll be up fucking as crazy as ever. So just got some supporters here in America, man, and best of luck over there. And if you need anything from me at all, you let me know. This will be out next week, so I'll hit you up when it comes out and stuff. But yeah, hopefully let's get a win and get you back on the podcast.
Fuck yeah, man. Thanks for the love, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Have a good day, buddy.
You too. Bye-bye.